Good afternoon, Pacific alumni and friends, and welcome to this edition of Pacific Conversations. My name is Scott Biederman. I'm the proud Vice President for Development and Alumni Relations here at Pacific, and a double tiger. I am here in the Jeanette Powell Art Center in our Reynolds Gallery with Lisa Cooperman, our inaugural curator of art here on campus. Lisa, welcome to Pacific Conversations.
Thanks so much, Scott.
So Lisa, let me tell our audience a little bit about you. You're responsible for the university's permanent art collection. You support our art, media, performance, and design, as well as the Reynolds Gallery, which we're in here today, and you can see some of the art in the back. Your research areas include feminist art, museum education, and digital humanities. Prior to coming to Pacific, you served as the curator of education at the museum right up on Pershing, the Hagen Museum, and you're also a nationally exhibiting studio artist. So we're so glad to have you here at Pacific. Tell our alumni and friends a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow up? How did you get into curation? And why Pacific?
I'm from the Bay Area originally, and went to school back east, made a big loop before I ended back in Stockton, and actually started at Pacific as a studio instructor. So I taught studio art here for a few years, and then I went to the Hagen Museum, and I realized that museums were an amazing place to bring like the lessons of the classroom into the public space, into gallery spaces, and into doing informal education where you don't have 15 weeks to teach something, but you have like a really condensed, short amount of time to I don't know, make somebody feel something or help them have an insight about art. And galleries and working with collections just was like a dream. So it's been an absolutely wonderful dream to work here as the curator.
Well, we're going to go through one of your exhibits soon, but tell us a little bit about you and your art. So you are an artist yourself, so what do you do?
Yeah, well, I was trained as a metalsmith, which is like
a metalsmith.
super particular, right?
Okay.
But I realized I really didn't want to make jewelry. I mean, I love jewelry, but I was interested in sculpture and just kind of things with some more content to it. So I took a lot of my metal techniques and joined them with fiber and textile techniques. So now I work as a textile sculptor. And I'm a national member of the AI Art Gallery in New York. I've had a number of solo shows there, and I show in exhibitions all around.
So when I hear textile sculptor, so vividly describe to me what that means. What would I be looking at here?
Oh, textiles are everywhere, right?
Yes.
They're like the foundation of civilization. Without fiber, without
Yes,
textiles.
we have textiles behind us.
We have textiles all around us. And so textile sculpture can really mean anything that has a technique like weaving or coiling or knitting or sewing and this as a medium has taken off in the last like 15 years as a kind of recognized form of like fine art, where previously, and actually some of the artists in this, an artist in this show was experimenting with techniques about 50 years ago, when it was really thought of more as craft, right? When in that hierarchy of like who's the most important artist in the room, the textile artist you're usually down at the bottom of the totem pole, but that has changed, which is really wonderful.
Yeah, so before we get into more about Pacific, last question about you. How much time do you still spend doing your craft?
It's a time, have to squeeze it in.
Yes.
But, and I, really fortunate to have great support of my colleagues here. So we've done some faculty exhibitions, and, I try to get in the studio every other day.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, as I'm going through campus, and I'm sure our alumni as well have seen this, we see our art in Stockton, in Sacramento, in San Francisco. Tell us a little bit about your role and what you do with our permanent art collection here.
Well, I was really fortunate when to really be the recipient of the Powell's, of Robert and Jeanette Powell's generosity, in that the gift that they gave to Pacific included work from their permanent collection, their home collection, and they lived with these pieces, and then realized, well, there should probably be somebody on campus to kind of not only look after the art that they donated, but the rest of Pacific's collection, which is about like over 2,000 pieces of work.
2,000 pieces.
Yeah, paintings, prints, photographs, sculpture, some furniture, some rugs, a few decorative arts. Mostly fine art, though, and my goal is to make sure it doesn't like live in the storage room, right? It gets out on campus. So if you see art in public spaces around campus, it's in the library or WPC, provost office, that's work from the permanent collection.
The Vereshegen Alumni House
Vereshegen Alumni
has
House.
pieces of art. So you referenced Bob and Jeanette Powell. So we have 19 pieces of their artwork throughout our campus. You're also funded by an endowment they created. So this position, just so our folks know, was funded by philanthropy. So this is why you're the inaugural, because a gift was made to establish it.
Exactly, for which we're so generous.
So
We're
grateful
generous.
for.
We're very, very grateful.
So Lisa, you're the inaugural curator here. You've been here for a number of years. Tell us a little bit about what has been the most rewarding aspect of the position.
Definitely working with students. I have taught some museum studies classes and studio classes, and I continue to do independent study projects with students where we will kind of dig into the collection, taking where they're coming from, and then finding a way to kind of join their interests with an exhibition and creating something in the gallery. They are so fresh, they're so curious, they have insights, and they bring things to it that I could never have imagined.
So I remember you did an exhibit with our students with the permanent art collection where they actually had, here's the permanent piece and here's the student piece. How was trying to create that theme with the student, how did that work? Because we got a preview of it during a board meeting and it was so interesting.
Yeah, that was the show that we did last year called Powell Art Personal Marks, and I worked with 4 Powell scholars. And I just showed them the artwork and I said, what do you think? And they kind of really responded to the ideas, the aesthetics, and then the work itself. And then they made things kind of in response to it. So, but it was all based on their own disciplines and their own interests. So for example, one of the students is pre-law, and she's really interested in like disability access and how, how do people with, people with no sight or low vision or have other access issues, how can they experience art? So she created like a touch wall that gave people the sensation of touching different surfaces to mimic the red, yellow, and blue of a Jasper Johns print. So, and they dug very, very deep in themselves and found these like amazing parallels. So it was so exciting. There was so much learning going on in that gallery. They blew me away.
Well, and the students, when they presented it, it was very thought-provoking as well. So, as I referenced at the top, we're in the Reynolds Gallery, part of the Jeanette Powell Art Center here on South Campus. We've opened this during Homecoming and Family Weekend so alumni could come in and see the art and the exhibits we have in this space. How could alumni be engaged in the arts here at Pacific?
Well, I'd love to know, what they're up to. So they can always get in touch with me if they're a commercial artist or they're a collector or really anything that has to do with art. I'd love to know what they're up to. I've have begun to kind of really get more communications out with the Pacific community. So we could share their stories. I'd love to invite people perhaps to campus to talk to students. Scholarships are always a great way to support our students here and be involved.
Well, I'm a little biased towards the latter. The scholarships are always important for our students. Lisa, tell me a little bit about, we're going to get up, we're going to move, we're having some movement here. Tell us about, and we're not trying to have our back to the camera, so I'm looking at the camera the entire time. We are at the exhibit, The Stockton Scene, which showcases 4 Emeriti faculty. So as we go through this exhibition, tell us a little bit about each artist and what piece we're in front of. Okay. So let's start with this one.
Absolutely. So right now we're standing in front of two very large canvas pieces and one smaller painting by the artist Chisato Watanabe. And she's one of the 4 artists in Stockton Scene. Larry Walker, Barbara Flaherty, and Carla Malone are the others. And they were all making art in the later part of the 20th century, which was a time of like experimentation, of freedom, of kind of new media being brought into traditional painting and sculpture. So like, for example, this piece was made in the 80s, and Chisato included glitter.
Glitter. Can we get a close-up of the glitter?
And little tassels and
little diamonds.
and diamonds and little bits of like
Hair?
dots
Is it,
and no,
or you know, eyelashes?
I think it looks like eyelashes. Yeah, it's about an experience. It's not necessarily about a thing, but it's about a feeling. And for me, the feeling I get from her work is one of joy and experimentation. And I think she was, you know, she learned her craft very quickly. She went to school as an adult and then just like dove into the art world and really pursued it with just like great energy and abandon, which is like incredible to see.
And she did it all on canvas. So was it intentional that it's on canvas and nothing that you traditionally see that's like framed? Was that also to kind of be outside the lines?
Yeah, that was very much part of the era as things kind of broke out of the frame. They broke out of traditional molds. And incorporated less traditional media and things that were new and really different.
Because if we go to the one up here, this one is called Purple Dots for Rice. So Lisa, before we move on, explain this piece to our audience.
Okay, well, Watanabe's family, like all the Japanese American families in Stockton and in California and the West Coast were interned. And they were sent, and her family was sent to Rower, Arkansas. So Chisato was just out of high school then, and she'd been interested in art, but that was a hugely, traumatic event for her and for her family. And afterwards, she was really committed to, she worked with her husband in his photography studio, and she really was hungry to make art. And when she went to school, I think she just dove into it. And so I think from my point of view, the familiar images of, like if you spill rice on the floor, somebody's got to clean it up, right? And a student pointed this out, I hadn't even seen it, that there's perhaps a broom working its way through those dots of rice.
Oh, right there, yes.
Yeah, And who does that work usually in the household? So she was a feminist artist without, being like really, really overt about it.
Interesting.
I think so.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so we're going to move on as we're going to walk and talk. And so, again, taught at University Pacific. We're going to go over to Barbara Flattery and Larry Walker, also former faculty at Pacific. Walk us through what you're trying to create in this scene.
Okay, that's a great question because it actually kind of gets to how an exhibition is put together as a whole. There was so much work in this show, we actually ran out of space.
Is that right?
We had more work being offered for us to put up, but we it's out in the hallway. We really just ran out of room. And we knew that even though the artists were really different, they were going to look good together. We're going to find ways to have the art kind of be in conversation. So for example, here, these two pieces have a lot of similarity in the color palette with these warm ochre colors and cool blue, but more importantly, the figures that are part of this, part of the images kind of speak to one another. Walker was one of the first black professors here at Pacific when he came in 1964. And he made work that really, he used his classical art training to make comments on, what it was to be a black person at the time. And kind of shows us in this image, I think, some constraint, some overlapping, some difficulty, some, not being free. And Flaherty's piece likewise has a feeling of constraint, even though the figure is in a tree by the riverside, but there's something that's somewhat captured, encapsulated there.
Yeah, and so this is, again, undated. This picture's from 1969, so you can see some of the civil rights movement within this frame.
Very much
This
so.
is called Willow Woman. And so to your point, what is the artist doing? You're showing being trapped, confined within a tree?
I think she's showing a figure, like making a comparison between the figure, of a woman's figure, and the tree. And I think she harkens back a little bit to a Greek myth of Daphne and Apollo, and of the woman who, to get away from the god who's chasing her, is turned into a tree. And there's this push and pull of freedom and constraint that is really evident in all of the artist's work. Flaherty is also very interested in mythology and kind of ancient Greek and medieval mythology.
But to your point, to curate something, you're showing the constraints of gender and race.
And race, absolutely.
At the same time. And so if we go back to Larry Walker's work for a second, and you go through and you see the different dimensions of people, different dimensions of ourselves, you look as a viewer and thinking, where is this confined person at? And you referenced a train potentially.
To me, there's it might be a bus. You know, if we're thinking about buses and the imagery of buses and segregation, there's a form here that I see in that upper right corner that looks like a window. And through the window it's very obscured, a flag.
American
right?
flag.
So, but it's sort of been colored out. It's not vivid for everybody here. So the same ideals perhaps that are represented by the flag for some people are not present for everybody.
Power of art. We're going to move on because this exhibit goes into the other room, which we're going to get to. So we also see these Emeriti faculty using mixed mediums within their art, so multiple type things. So tell us a little bit about this scene that you created here.
Sure.
Lisa.
The exhibition has features painting, printmaking, and collage work, which is a really popular technique at this time in the 70s, 80s. Again, sort of experimenting with materials, taking non-art materials and making art with them. Walker made these two little collages using
Let's get up
bus
closer,
tickets.
Julia.
Yeah, he's got
So still Larry Walker, who did the picture over there. And this is Fly the Friendly Skies from 1976.
Right, so he's pulled off a little luggage tag, probably from a trip that he took, but he's overlaid it on an image of some civil rights activists, okay? And then there's a matchbook, and we think about who was allowed in public spaces. Were the skies in fact friendly for everybody? No, maybe not.
Interesting.
So just within this very contained space, he's able to create the give and take that kind of makes us ask questions, right?
And so if I'm an art student, when I say mixed techniques, it's because I'm literally putting on paper a matchbook, right? Making a collage. Got it.
That's mixed media.
Mixed media.
You got
Look at
it,
this.
right?
This is very
Glitter counts, tassels count.
Oh, glitter and tassels.
Matchbooks all count.
Oh, matchbooks. Okay. Okay. Well, you don't want to light it up. That's what I think. Okay. But so when we go down here, similar, right? This was also moving.
So he's got a little moving tag here, and actually the wire from the tab of, I don't know if it was on a suitcase or perhaps when he moved his family, they had everything labeled. It doesn't matter exactly what it is. What matters is what you see and how it makes you feel when you're looking at it.
So that goes back to you as a curator. So how long does it take to create an exhibition like this? So tell me about the thought process. Do you include students in it?
We worked on this show, actually, and I absolutely have to acknowledge my collaborator at this point, Jessica Fong, who is the
Jessica,
ceramics
yeah.
instructor. Yeah, and she's also the director of the Stockton Art League and is just an amazing community resource. She was, we both reached out into the community for this show. Most of the work in the show is community lenders. Only some of it belongs to the university. The rest was borrowed from friends, family, and people who kind of, we got in touch with them and they helped us make the show. So they kind of recreated in that their generosity, their loans, the community that the artists were making when they were here teaching.
So it illustrates, though, our faculty, they're teaching our students, but how integrated they were in the community and the fact that a lot of this art came from our community.
Yep. Yes. I mean, yeah. This piece was hanging in your neighbor's living room, and they were able to lend us the work that, again, kind of recreated that idea of community that the artist built.
How many hours do you think went into it?
We really started working on this almost a year ago.
Really?
Yeah. And I rented a van at one point and was driving around to San Francisco to pick up art, and people drove up art from Los Angeles, and we met so many of the family that have participated, like the Chisato's family. Cousins keep calling me up and I've got paintings, so that's just been lovely. And Kara Walker and Dana Walker, Larry Walker's daughters, who are both artists, were able to visit us here, which we're like very, very honored by their
Very
visits.
prominent artists in their own right. As we're going to walk around the corner, so Julia's going to follow us. We're getting our steps in this specific conversations, and we're not going to turn my back to you. Is as we walk through this space, tell us about a piece of art that resonated with you and why. Okay.
Well, actually, we're here right now at Carla Malone's ceramic sculpture. She's the fourth artist in the show. She unfortunately passed away when she was quite young, so we don't have as much of her work as we would love to have given her more of a showcase. She was a Pacific student, and her father taught here in the pharmacy school. He was an ethnopharmacologist.
Carla Malone.
Yep.
And this is, pronounce that for me, Lisa?
Protuberance.
That.
That's that.
And two. And so, what is this?
So she was a ceramic sculptor, and she was really
Can I touch
interested.
This?
No, absolutely
okay.
not. Thank you so much. Yeah, one of the scary things about the show is how very fragile this work is.
Oh yeah, because this is from, we don't know when, but
yeah, it's from the 80s, probably from the late 80s. So she made her work by coiling. She's really interested in like ancient coiling techniques, like clay.
So this is ceramic coiled up all together one by one?
Yeah, when you get your kids out, like they get to make a Play-Doh snake, and you roll it all out, and it's got to be very even, and then it's coiled up and then connected, and each surface has to connect to the next one, and then it all has to not blow up when you put it in the kiln. So yeah, and she would fire these, after they came out of the kiln, she'd put it in a big trash can full of like sawdust and paper, which of course catches on fire.
Yeah.
And then you put the lid on, and that oxidation process creates a blackened surface that gives it this very, otherworldly, ancient.
Very rustic, right?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. So I'm very moved by her work, and sorry that we don't have more of it to show. But she was important to show here. She helped run the gallery, and was an instructor as well.
Okay, and so I know art's all about you and the person. Tell me how this moved you. I'm curious.
Just kind of from its strangeness, and it's a reminder that art can be uncomfortable, or can be difficult, or can make you feel perhaps not only only good or only joyful, but to have sort of contradictory feelings. So that is that's what her work does for me. I really enjoy it a lot.
I want to walk back, and so this is a piece of art that is, when I came into the gallery, that I thought, this is interesting. Okay, this is interesting, and don't mind the little juggling because we're moving as we're going. Is this piece right here? Because it is very much just thread, not just thread. I'm sorry, a thread on what appears to be canvas. Tell us about this piece of work.
Okay, so this is another piece by Chisato Watanabe.
So the canvas with the glitter, the tassels, the eyelashes, the diamonds. Yes.
So, and it's right next to a Larry Walker, and that sort of in comparison, they're much more somber, right? They were probably made about the same time. We're talking like late 60s, 70s, and being engaged in protest art, right? And being making socially engaged work, talking about the war, talking about injustice, talking about discrimination. I don't know per se what Chisato's message is about this piece, but the impact it has is really what we have today to look at. Each one of these little threads, I was talking about textile artists.
Yes.
Each one of these little threads is sewn through the canvas from behind.
Oh yeah.
And then knotted, right? Yeah. And she's made this really subtle surface that transitions from like a pale gray, smoke gray, to a slightly gold, little more, and your eye moves through the space of the painting on a little journey. And then if you take that journey, which is what an artist is asking you to do, right? Around the surface, through it, there's a spot up there that is very subtly different from the rest of it, in that it has a warmth and a redness to it.
Yes,
almost.
yes, right here,
But you wouldn't see that until you spent some time with it. And that's what we're here to do, right? It's
Yes.
just look, you know?
I thought this was just thread on a textile. So interesting that you then paired it just from the color scheme with the Larry Walker.
Yes. And then another piece by Chisato Watanabe to the end where that's very overtly about the war and about, you know, all our young people who were being drafted and went to Vietnam and those who didn't come back.
Interesting. So as we progress, we were in that space, the room next door, and we're here. What moods are you trying to create as a curator? Because clearly this is very clear, right? This is a more somber wall.
Yeah.
It's a war statement. It is, again, probably to do with race and covering up. What are you trying to do as I walk through, or people walk through this gallery? What moods are you trying to create?
We want to create space for, I guess, for contemplation, right? For people to have the feelings that they have, which might be, again, might be uncomfortable, might be joyful, might be anything. So it's really a matter of like creating an environment where all of those feelings can come in. Can I show you another section?
Yes.
So this wall here.
By the same artist who did the thread.
Yeah.
This one I like. This one I resonate more with.
So we started the exhibition here, actually, because we walked through it a little bit,
backwards,
you know, the other way around. But we started it here because we felt the work here gives a sense of place, and the place of the Delta specifically. Only Chisato Watanabe is a Stockton native, and everybody else came from somewhere else.
To work here, and they got exposed.
Yeah. Barbara Flaherty came from the Midwest via Davis, and she and her husband lived on a houseboat right over in Darraville, and they raised like a homemade houseboat. They raised twins on their houseboat.
Okay.
I know. And she painted,
very artist stereotypical. Yes.
Very much so. And she painted the river and all of its like little hidey holes and moods and scenes. So it was important for us to actually show some traditional subject matter and to show how these artists all handled different things like a landscape, like this landscape that Chisato painted of a beach scene, and even this port. We thought this might be the port of Stockton.
Oh, yes.
But we took it out of the frame and discovered that it was dated 1958, so it would have to have been painted in Detroit when Walker was still working in Detroit. So he, but it feels like Stockton to me. It feels like the port. It feels like that observation of the industry and the river and the sun beating down, and here the sort of quietness of the Delta, that incessant wind of the beach. So the mood here is of kind of helping people feel connected to a place, and then wanting to give them the chance to experience whatever they're feeling like today.
I have to tell you, Lisa, I think it's fascinating as we progressed a little bit backwards through this exhibition, is how much history a student could learn or alumni could learn walking through here about race, gender, about the place that we're in, but also how we can mix different textures together to create different moods and feelings.
Absolutely.
How powerful. We need to all come down to the Reynolds Art Gallery much more. This has been fascinating, and this Stockton scene I know ends soon. How many exhibitions do we have a year here typically in the Reynolds Gallery?
We usually do about 3 a semester.
3 a semester,
yeah.
Okay.
So there's a pretty quick turnover. Sometimes they're faculty, sometimes we borrow artwork, and sometimes they're student shows too. And at the end of the year, we always do a student show of the graduating seniors, graphic design and studio majors. Actually, that's a great show for alumni to come back to because they get to see where these young people are heading out.
And to see how they're mixing old with new techniques.
Exactly.
Oh, awesome. We're going to move into our tiger tailspin. Again, we're going to learn more about Lisa, our curator. Okay, so these are just rapid fire questions and just quick answers. We want to really know you. What is your favorite food?
Coffee ice cream.
Coffee ice cream? Okay, I have to know because I love coffee ice cream. What brand?
I like this Strauss's.
Oh, Strauss's.
It's really good. Yeah.
Okay,
that's a local
Haagen-Dazs
one.
is good too.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Haagen-Dazs
yeah,
coffee.
It's kind of hard to make that.
Yeah, but coffee ice cream. I knew I liked you because I'm an ice cream person. Who is your favorite musician?
My dad.
Oh, your dad was a
My
musician.
dad. Well, no, he was a radiologist.
Okay, tell us a little more.
But he's a really, really talented musician, and he really wanted to be a musician. So, yeah, like one of my earliest memories of him playing piano, he could play anything. He'd just pick it up and could play it. So, yeah, and he's still playing the piano.
Oh, fantastic. What is your favorite movie?
Oh, God, that's so hard. Okay, I love this, like, it's kind of obscure Swedish movie from the 80s called My Life as a Dog.
My Life as a
My
as
Life
a Dog?
As a Dog, yeah. And it's about a little boy who, like, goes off to it's about loss, it's about community, it's about belonging and, like, quirkiness and support and finding your people. And it's really, really lovely. And
Okay.
it's
Everybody,
a lovely
My
film.
Life as a Dog. Good recommendation. Holidays are coming up.
Absolutely.
Time to watch a movie. What is your favorite place on campus?
Oh, well, if it's not the Reynolds Gallery, and I love being in here, I love working in here when there's nobody else here and we're putting up a show and we're kind of finding the magic and the artist like talking to itself. That's kind of a magical place. If I'm not in here, I love the gardens nearby, both the Rob Garden and the native plant garden. They're just so full of life. There's so many. There are birds and bees there, and it's a beautiful. It smells good.
Yes,
it's very alive.
Especially when produce is in season. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this is what we learned. Favorite food, coffee, ice cream. Favorite musician, your dad. Favorite movie, My Life as a Dog. And our gardens here on campus are your favorite places.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lisa. We're going to end with 2 alumni questions that we had sent in. So Karen Rosenthal, class of 1966 from our College of Pacific, asks, what is the oldest piece in Pacific's art collection?
The oldest piece. We have a number of prints that were made in the 18th century.
Oh.
Yeah, we have some print portfolios that are that's very special. They don't go on view very often because they're kind of fragile, and we have to keep them shielded from the light. But we have a number of a whole portfolio of prints that are looking pretty good for being that old.
And do we store them? I mean, we just have art storage. Is it here in the Art Center?
Yeah, it's here in the Art Center. I have a code.
That's all we need to know. Nobody needs to know the code. Okay, Jane Cook. Oh, hi, Jane Cook. Class of 1975, College of Pacific. What is the most unique piece that you find in our art collection now, where there's over 2,000 items to choose from? What is the most unique to you?
Unique to me. Some of I would say there's still pieces in the collection that have a little bit of mystery about them. I'm not sure who made them, and I'm not quite sure how they got here. So there's this beautiful
that could
marble
be a development
sculpture.
story too.
We could definitely work on that. Help us. Actually, I think that might be our story. I'm sure that alum could help us solve some of those mysteries.
So tell us the mystery that you're referring to, though, now.
It's a small marble sculpture that's sort of curved. It looks like, you really want to touch it. You're not supposed to touch the sculpture, but
don't touch it.
And I don't know how it got here. So it's an unusual thing. It's unusual that there's no paper trail. That's a little bit mystifying to me, but it's a good mystery.
It's what happens when we're the oldest university in the state of California. We have things that are like, where'd this come from? Who gave it to us? And we're just blessed to have it.
And they have the resources to spend some time looking for those answers because they are great stories.
Yeah. Lisa Cooperman, thank you so much for joining our Pacific Conversations. And thank you all for joining this edition of Pacific Conversations at the Reynolds Gallery in the Jeanette Powell Art Center. For all of our Pacific alumni and friends out there, please enjoy the holiday season ahead. And thank you for joining us again for this Pacific Conversations. And go Tigers!